For day 5 notes in algebra, this one is about factoring, and so it's pretty much like undoing FOIL. When we did FOIL or we multiplied, I would give you like these two problems or these two binomials, and you had to multiply them. And you could have used the box method, you could have distributed. Either way would have worked, and you would have got an answer similar to this. But now we're going to go backwards. If I give you the trinomial, can you come up with the two sets of parentheses? And so how we do this is we say, okay, the very first number is a 1, and we do 1 times 15 is 15. And I want to know what times what makes 15. So 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay? Then you make an x. And on the top of the x, you put that 15 that you got. At the bottom of the x, you put the middle number, 8. And my goal is to use these pairs and figure out which one multiplies to be 15 and can add or subtract to make an 8. Well, we know that makes a 16 or a 14. This could be 2 or 8, so it has to be 3, 5. Okay? And I'm getting those numbers, I'm either adding them or I'm subtracting them. So 3 plus 5 gives me 8. Then you take that 3 and the 5 and you put it in parentheses. So you would say x plus 3 and x plus 5. Because if I were to multiply x times x, I get x squared. 3 times 5 gives me 15. And I can work out the rest of it to make sure I'm right. But that's like a very quick check to make sure you've done it right with your signs. Okay, part B. We have 1 times 24. We can fill in our 24 at the top. We can figure out our factors of 24. So what times what makes 24? And then we're trying to figure out which pair can make that middle number, negative 11. And looks like 3 and 8. I know that if I take 3 plus 8, I get a positive 11. But I need a negative 11, so I'm going to make it negative and negative. Now, a negative times a negative is a positive 24. A negative plus a negative is a negative 11. And so my parentheses would be x minus 3 and x minus 8. So this method with the x is called x factor. Okay? And we're using it to write our answer in factored form. So this right here is called factored form. Okay, so we use the x factor to write our answer in factored form. Alright, the next ones. So there's a 1 here. So 1 times negative 15 is negative 15. Okay, so I need to have the negative in the x. I don't really need it over here for the list of numbers. So for the list of factors, we've got 1 times 15, 3 times 5. And we are trying to get, we're trying to get to a 2. Okay? So which pair can either add or subtract to make 2? Has to be 3 and 5. So now, which number has to be negative? It has to be 3. Because 5 minus 3 gives you a positive 2. And 5 times negative 3 gives you a negative 15. So we would say x minus 3 and x plus 5. So here we've got 1 times negative 20. It's negative 20. And we are going to try to get to a negative 1 this time. That middle number is a negative 1. So for 20, we have 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. So which one can add or subtract to get to negative 1? And it has to be 4 and 5. So 5 minus 4 gives you a positive 1. If I make 5 negative, 4 minus 5 gives me negative 1. 4 times negative 5 gives me negative 20. So my factored form is x plus 4 and x minus 5. Okay? In letter E, 1 times 36 is 36. And we are trying to get to negative 12. So for 36, we have 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6. Okay, so which one of these pairs can make a 12, or a negative 12? And the only one I see is 6 and 6. If I add 6 plus 6, I get 12. So I need to make these negative. If I add 2 negatives, I keep the negative. If I multiply 2 negatives, I get the positive. So my answer is x minus 6, x minus 6. But because they are exactly the same, you could also write it as x minus 6 squared. So I would accept either one. This is the more right answer, but this is not wrong. This is the same thing. Okay, letter F. 1 times 18 is 18. We are trying to get to 9. So 18, we have 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. So the only pair that can get to 9 would be 3 and 6. And I would have to add 3 plus 6 to get positive 9. Positive times positive is a positive, so that puzzle works. And so we would have x plus 3 and x plus 6.